You can start.
See, like,
You want to share, just click share to share.
okay.
Share now to share. Let's start talking so that you can come on.
Okay. Good to have everyone here at the GCC conference. It's an international conference because of what we're addressing today. It's a game changer conference, and my name is Dr. Moses Paul. I'm an author, a youth mobilizer, an organizer. I consider myself a politician, and also one who sits on the niche of ideation and implementation and creation of human development capital in terms of programming, as it were. And I'll be sharing a few things regarding sustainable transformation. By the way, I have a PhD in environmental resource planning, so you could ask any question regarding that and whatever it is. The last speaker, okay. Last speaker spoke about the prospects of sustainable transformation in Nigeria and did give an in-depth analysis of that. And I'll be looking at the challenges. And just to recap some of the things he spoke about, we talked about there are three essential pillars of sustainable development or transformation. And when we talk about transformation, we're looking at like a total aspect of change. Change can happen in just one segment, but when you're talking about transformation, you're looking at the total package of change. That's what transformation is. It impacts on the environment, on the economy, and the value of different aspects of the society, like we'll be looking about in terms of social equality, like he spoke about, which has to do with access to education, access to health, hospitals, access to housing, and every other social amenities that is available for humanity in today's modern world. And of course, he touched on economic growth too, which also has to do with the growth in terms of production, and also the consumption of goods and services in any given space and time. When people can access, can produce and also can consume in that regard. Majorly in the global parlance, we use the gross domestic product to measure economic growth in that sense. And also when you talk about environmental, what's it called now, stewardship, that has to do with the protection and the management of our natural resources and the environment. These are the pillars that we're looking at and we'll be talking about in that regard. And particularly, my job is very simple, because if you are in this climate, to look at the things that are the problems, they abound almost in every where we are. I just want to quickly touch on something that I deeply resonate with me, because I've spoken in several places around the world. And for us to be able to deal with sustainable development or transformation in Nigeria and in Africa particularly, the value of dollar that is against the humanitarian aids has to be stopped. Nigeria, like the earlier speaker spoke about, we're so blessed with so much natural resources and human resources too. And that's why in almost all the nations of the earth, there are Nigerians everywhere. There is practically no place where Nigerians do not have a community. And in all those places where you talk about politics, education, you talk about banking, finance, or any aspect of the gates of society, Nigerians are excelling. Nigerians are becoming, from the UK to the US, Nigerians are competing, strongly, not just the fact that we are the most educated immigrants in all over anywhere in the world, but also taking up the role and responsibility of politics, everywhere. What that speaks is to the value of our human capital. Aside the fact that we are so blessed in terms of natural resources, there's practically nothing that is required in today's sustainable world in terms of natural resources that we do not have in this side of the world. In Nigeria, particularly, from gold to oil to even to the coltan that is used in our telecommunication gadgets, and even what is required for the batteries that will sustain the world today. We have them in abundance in this country, and there is no way, there is no how we can have sustainable society if the value of global currency is not measured as an indicator or as indices and balance to the natural resources, which is what it should be, as against the humanitarian aids that we have today. Because until that is stopped, the value of what we have in terms of the growth, which is part of the challenges that I'm going to be talking about, where you have the increase in poverty, increase in the lack of access to all of the things we're talking about, economic growth, the environmental management, and social equity. We're going to just be having an increase in IDPs and war-torn areas here and there, banditry, terrorism, if you may, and also the instability in political leadership. This is a message directly to the world leaders, even as we address this conference today, that this is important, that we have reason and we understand exactly what needs to be done. And because UNGA just finished, which is the United Nations 78 Assembly, these are some of the things that even the president of Nigeria, hinted in his speech. And we're looking forward to all other representation of Africa to stand up against this, because that's the only way we can have the topic that we are addressing today in terms of sustainable development or transformation. To talk about some of the challenges very quickly, one has to do with the lack of awareness in education, of course. We have over 20 million young people out of school just in northern Nigeria. That is mind-blowing. It is not acceptable. It is one of the things that has kept Nigeria backward. And even those who have gone to school, many still lack the requisite knowledge that is required to understand, because this is way a little above the basic knowledge that is there. If we speak about, we're talking about sustainable, development and transformation, because it's not just about creating change, but creating a platform, a standard, and creating an environment that allows for generations and generations unborn to be able to tap into that reserve that is created. So whether you're talking about accessibility to job, for example, growing up in the 70s and in the 80s, our parents spoke about the fact that after their NYSC, jobs were available. But the fact that the jobs are not available for our young people today means that there's no sustainability. That's what it simply means. The fact that people can access health and hospitals, even here in the capital city of Abuja, the fact that our presidents and world leaders and governors, and local government chairmen, and all of the people that we have to go and seek for health tourism in the UK, in the EU, and Paris and other places, speak directly, to what we are addressing. The fact that we don't have basic electricity to deal with, that even that knowledge gap that is prevalent is a serious knowledge gap that we have, and all of that has to do with awareness that we have to create. The lack of it is part of the challenge that we are having. And number two, also, we can look at and talk about limited resources. You know, it is an aberration that here today, the president of Nigeria has borrowed so much already within just 100 days of being in office. And right now, he's still seeking to get more loans, you know, for just survival in Nigeria. The fact that we do not have the financial structure in place, you know, in terms of sustainable projects, you know, in terms of funding, these are all very humongous challenges that will not allow for sustainable development. There is no how you want to sustain, even taking it from a personal point of view. If you are borrowing money to pay your rent, or you are borrowing money to feed your family, you are not even alive yet, much less to talk about sustainability. People who have eaten enough, who have reserve, who can think of purpose and trying to transcend even where they are in terms of their values that they bring. These are the people that can think about sustainability. So we're far from it, even as a nation and as a community and as a people, you know, and those are very huge gaps and challenges that must be bridged. It can be bridged. You know, you listen to the prospect that the earlier speaker spoke about, and you know that it can be done. You know, and this is why we're also having this conference here today. The political and institutional weakness as a third point is one of the major reasons, or the major yardstick why we cannot have sustainable development, or a big challenge in that regard. The 2023 general election, as we can see, which in my opinion is the only election that we've, you know, practically had in Nigeria, because when you look at the elections of the 1964, 65, or you talk about the 1979 and 83, 1999 elections, because we do not have requisite data to show and to be able to measure, to defend the votes, you could never know when the votes were stolen. But today, some parties are still in court, you know, trying to fight and talk about the last presidential election, because from 2019, we had about 84 million registered voters as against nearly 100 million registered voters that we have in 2023. And you can see that never before the participation of women and young people in Nigeria's political space has grown, but yet the instability that we are having, even currently, is one of the big challenge, you know, and hurdles that we will need to cross as a people if we must become a sustainable environment and society. You know, so these are some of the issues that we have to deal with. Addressing these issues is crucial to ensuring effective implementation and monitoring of sustainable policies. You know, there are certain cultural behaviors when you look at the way Africa and Nigeria is wired that has also become a huge challenge to how sustainable development and transformation is being harnessed, you know, in this part of the world. They look very little, but when you speak about environmental stewardship, then they become really a very big challenge to us, where certain practices in our cultural and behavioral pattern in terms of how we promote sustainable practices, littering the street, and also very poor waste management practices that we have condoned in this part of the world is also one of the challenge that is not helping us be able to deal with the topic of today squarely. Also, inadequate infrastructure. The lack of reliable infrastructure is one of the major challenge we're having. In Nigeria today, when you look at the amount of electricity we're able to produce vis-a-vis comparable with the population, is not even up to 10%, much less its distribution. Then also we look at transportation, we look at waste management in terms of you know, how we have conducted that. All of these are part of the infrastructures that are not available in our climate. And these are huge challenge, you know, that we are facing in this part of the world where that is concerned. To be able to overcome these challenges and promote sustainable transformation, Nigeria will need to have a holistic, like I started up saying in my introduction, that just like with weather is the current atmospheric, how do you put it now, what you feel currently about your environment and space, but climate change has to do with different weathers. You're talking about temperature, you're talking about the different, all the other elements, you know, that are put together to create climate change over a period of time. So for us to have sustainable transformation is in every aspect of our lives. It's not just a change in one particular aspect. It has to do with even how people process information, you know. It has to also do with who we are, not just the education, but even the value and the level of education, you know, not just even access to some of the social amenities in terms of hospitals, in terms of housing, and social amenities, but even the quality of same is what we're talking about. This interconnected, you know, approach, which must be adopted, is what will help us to be able to overcome. So to overcome these challenges, you know, you have to be looking at from the behavioral pattern to you're looking at all of the things we've talked about. They have to be holistic, and they can only be holistic beginning from bringing the leaders together. What the previous speaker spoke about, policies that have been in place. To talk about policies, it has to do with the quality of the people who are also making the laws and the, you know, so all of this has to come together for us to be able to have sustainable transformation or development. It's as simple as that in a nutshell. But in terms of achieving that, it will take a whole lifetime to be able to put these things in place. But in a nutshell, these are the basic challenges of sustainable development or transformation, particularly in Nigeria and in Africa. Have a good day.
These are so impactful and transformational. Please, if you have questions, the speakers are still around, so you can send your questions or you can speak out. We can, so that they can address some of the thing you may not understand. So we believe we can't really give you all the understanding here, just like the last speaker said. This is a topic of the not just national interest, but continental interest, even the world interest. That's actually we have this conference. It's something that we are building on from today, right? Because we want it to become a reality in our lifestyle, in our system, in our community, in our country, our continent, and everywhere we find ourselves. Speaker that talk about the prospects, you know, I was like, when he said you can actually start creating sustainability behavior from your home, you know, around you, your environment. So there are a lot of things we need to change about around us. Like I said before, sustainability starts from inside out, right? When the inside is taken care of, the inside, I mean your mind, when your marvelous mind is well renewed, transformation takes place in the mind. What the body does is to act what is inside us. So you just look around. The behavior you are exhibiting, is it sustainable? Is it sustainable in that this is what you want your children to continue with? This is where we are doing this. This is actually why we are doing this conference. Something you are doing from your behavior, your culture, your belief system, your values. What kind of values are you creating that make it last? Sustainability means something that lasts over time, a lasting thing. The last speaker said, what is he saying it will not be achieved now, but it will be something that will be everlasting. Still talking about sustainability. So can we now start from us? The change we want. Can I start from me? Can you start from you? This is the message we are passing here. Can we stop pointing the fingers towards others and let the finger face us first? What can I do to make it sustainable in my life? What kind of lifestyle can I start living? What kind of character can I start exhibiting? What kind of system can I start creating? What kind of policy can I start changing? Especially in government. A lot still come back to the government. So the idea in our governance, we really need to change. We really need to look inward. All the resources that is around us, how are we making the policies to make it realistic for all the citizens in Nigeria, in Africa? When we go out there, we travel outside Nigeria, we travel outside Africa as a continent, we meet this other side we call developed country. So why can't we make our own country a developed country? Since I was small, Nigeria has been underdeveloped country. When will Nigeria turn to a developed country? That's the sustainability there. The last speaker made a statement of, what was that statement? He said, if you was speaking about the Naira, the things were cheaper when we were small. So now it's still things are higher, which means there was no sustainability there, something like that.
Yeah, access to jobs,
To jobs. Oh, yes, job were waiting for them. Maybe they finished NYC, job were waiting for them, who were begging them to get a job. You have a job, just if there was no labor market. Now, an NYC a corporate is prepared that you will enter labor market too. So as you're finishing school, you're preparing your mind to be in the labor market. So we in Think and Slim Network is, you might not really need to enter the labor market. You can start creating what is in you, the skills, the potentials, the abilities, those gifts that is in you, your talent inside you. You can create it and start becoming employer of labors. Instead of waiting for government to give you a job, you can actually start giving job to your community. You can actually start giving job to the government. Government will start looking for you. Because like what we are doing now, we are trying to make something that government see reason to say, look, we want this in our community. We want this in all the local governments. We all want this in all the states. So can you please work with us? We are ready to work with all the governments in Nigeria, in Africa, in the world. We are ready. That's why we really bring out this conference with these great people, the great speakers, to say we are ready to make Nigeria work. So can Nigeria welcome us to help them make it work? We have what it takes. Yes, I know we do. That's our message today. Thank you.
Thank you.